Hello everybody, this is John and welcome to the Mershman Seeds Ag Weather Outlook for September 9th, 2017. Now for most of you over the primary corn belt, it was a quiet week with no rainfall. But if you were in parts of the Great Lakes in the eastern corn belt, particularly parts of Michigan and Ohio, there was some rain, anywhere from a half inch to even up to 2 inches in a few spots. Those are those areas in yellow. Now, what really made the week interesting was how cool it was over most areas. Temperatures averaged as much as 5 to 10 degrees below normal, mainly over the eastern corn belt, east of the Mississippi, west of the Mississippi, still below normal, but a little bit closer to 3 to 5 degrees below normal. So really some very pleasant temperatures and also some dry air. That's why we didn't get all that much rainfall. Now, we still have very dry soils over a good part of Iowa, good part of Illinois, parts of Michigan, scattered areas elsewhere, and we also have smaller areas that are wet, looks like parts of Minnesota and Wisconsin. But overall, as you know, the latter part of the summer has been quite dry in many spots. And over the last week, we even got drier. You can see these areas shaded in brown and particularly red. Those are areas that had drying. So most of the region, almost the entire corn belt, drying soils. Now, of course, what's in the news is Irma, and I'm not going to spend too much time on it because the media is covering it in a lot of detail. But the big question is, when is it going to turn north? And that's going to determine whether it moves more into central Florida peninsula, the western coast, which right now that's the forecast track, or maybe even a little bit offshore. And at least this morning, it's been hugging the Cuban coast, and that has decreased the winds a little bit because of the friction of the land mass. And it is going to be moving back over water, so it has that possibility of increasing again later today as it moves back over open water. So here's the latest track. Now the question is, for the Corn Belt, look at this on Wednesday and Thursday. That cone is the margin of error, that white cone. So there is the possibility we could get some moisture from Irma late this week into parts of the Corn Belt. I think it's pretty iffy at this time. It's much more likely to be eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee on east, but it'll be something interesting to watch this week, and I'll certainly let you know if that does work up into the area. Now, most of that area, as I just showed you, could really use some rain. It's pretty dry. Now we're getting into harvest season, so it might be too little too late, but it would be moving over areas quite dry. So if it moved in before we really got into a problem with runoff, probably would need 3 to 4 inches in many of these spots. So here's the forecast. I think I showed you the forecast here. Moving in right on along the coast here. Now you might remember when this first started quite a ways, but a week out, it was actually moving into the east coast. Then it moved right into Miami, and now the cone there is almost out of that region even. It looks like mainly right along the west coast, but it's so big you're going to have impacts along the entire Florida peninsula. A couple other systems out there, those are not expected to affect the mainland U.S. So here's the forecast. We basically have a ridge of high pressure over the Rockies. You can see that low that's associated with the hurricane over the southeast U.S. So this week, big question will be whether we get any of that moisture pushing up into the Corn Belt. It looks like the eastern Corn Belt still below normal temperatures, the western Corn Belt warming up a bit above normal. Now here's the rainfall forecast. I think this could really be adjusted as we go through the next couple of days. It's based on the path of Irma, and there's still some uncertainty with that. So very heavy rain right now, Florida, parts of the southeast U.S., but we'll see what happens if this does move a little bit further inland. That could push some of this heavier rain further north. Now we get into the 14th through 19th. Look at this. We're getting less shading in this pattern. That's saying it's beginning to get maybe a little bit closer to normal. We begin to warm up. So week one, we sort of continue through that cooler spell, but we're going through a transition. Then as we get into the 6 to 10 day, it looks like temperatures start to warm up. And then the 19th through the 24th, late September, not much shading at all here. So the jet stream's about where it is. Finally, this could be that pattern. That's just a quiet September pattern, harvest season type weather. and above normal temperature. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is warm and dry conditions as we get into the mid and latter part of September. So precipitation, you can see the path of Irma right now, subject to change. That could push up a little bit further north. Other than that, a very dry week yet again. In week 2, here we go. Maybe something in the upper Midwest, but overall I don't see anything strong one way or the other. So we are looking at soils drying out over most areas, the Corn Belt. Quiet weather with changing temperatures as we watch Irma. So that's this week's briefing. Hope your operations are going well as we move into the harvest season. Take care.